Hey there, it's Dr. J. Welcome, ladies and germs. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Monday. Evan, what's going on with you?
Hey man, not too much. Yeah, the sun is shining still. Summer is still here. Thank the Lord. We had some weird cold weather for a couple of days, and I thought, oh man, I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. But today it's back to the heat, so I'm enjoying it.
Summer down here has been hot as you know what,
Yeah,
but I got like a little portable air conditioner unit outside of my central air just because it's like, dude, I just can't keep up with it. I got like my 3 or 4 monitors and then my treadmill and then my stepping desk as well. I got like a little stepper. So if I'm sitting, I can bike. If I'm standing, I can walk, and just all the heat that comes off in like a smaller office, it just gets contained, and I need to just get it out.
yeah. Maybe that should be strategy number one for today's topic on improving sleep, which is make sure your environment is cool enough. Because I've seen that some of the literature where they do sleep studies on people that if the temperature is above 70, 72 Fahrenheit, people start getting restless.
Oh yeah, 100% agree with that. Yep, sleep quality, sleep. We're talking about sleep today, in case you guys didn't know yet. But temperature is important. I mean, I try to keep it in the upper 60s, low 70s. One thing I've done recently, because I'm in Texas right now, it's hot as heck, and it's really expensive to keep everything super cool. So one thing I invested in recently is called the bed jet, and the bed jet's excellent. I'll see if I could put a link down below for you guys to give
I
you a
loved
promotional offer.
I loved that thing.
Have you gotten it?
Well, no, remember you showed me when I was at your
Oh yeah, yeah. I
house.
showed you at my house. Yeah.
I
So you
love
saw
it.
it, but it's great. It basically goes underneath your sheets and then it pumps in air. Now it can warm the air up, but it can only cool the air as low as the air temperature. But it's nice because it can pull in if you have like 75 or 76 degree, temperature in your room and it's cool and already air conditioned. It can pump that air in and it kind of stays underneath there. And it can kind of cool you a bit. And it's very, very cooling. I put it on low, it's the very low speed.
Yep.
Maybe like it's at 10-20% of max, and it just keeps a little bit of air in there, so it keeps me cool, which is really nice. And especially in the summer, if a little bit of humidity, these sheets can kind of stick to you. It feels a little uncomfortable. It's just enough to cool that off.
Yep. So temperature is huge. I mean, many people
Temperature's
overlook
big.
that.
Oh, I agree totally. So the temperature aspect's great. I mean, I always sleep great when it's when it's colder, when it's around 69 or so. And then you can kind of really stay warm underneath there. That's really kind of the optimal temperature, 65 to 69. But in the summer, it's a little harder, especially if you're in hotter places in the U.S. And then next after that, let's kind of go into a couple of other metabolic things. What are your top few metabolic things you want to start with?
Well, I mean, blood sugar is the biggest one. I had so many issues with my blood sugar for probably my whole life, just being raised on a standard American diet, rich in carbohydrates, refined sugars. And so my blood sugar was probably one of the biggest needle movers for my health. And if your blood sugar is crashing at night, your adrenals have to kick in to crank up and create some extra glucose through the gluconeogenesis process. And then all of a sudden you wake up and your heart could be racing, your mind could be racing, etc. So for me, you got to work on adrenals. I just want to give a couple statistics first. People may, feel like sleep is just their issue, and they may not know that many people struggle with it. So if you're looking at some of the CDC, I mean, they're saying 50 million plus people have some sort of issue with sleep. 50 million people in the US alone. So that is huge. And then, of course, they've got this whole list of health conditions that are tied into sleep issues. So it could be things like stroke, cancer, arthritis, depression, diabetes. We know that if you're not sleeping well, your blood sugar is messed up from not sleeping well, and blood sugar can mess up sleep. So it's like this big connected spider web. That's a lot of people, 50 million people struggling with sleep.
Yeah, definitely a lot. New study that just came out over the weekend, actually. And the study looked at what's the optimal amount of sleep for cardiovascular health. They found 6 to 8 hours was the optimal dosage for sleep. Too high actually had an increased risk factor, and then too low also had an increased risk factor. So 6 to 8 was the sweet spot. They weren't quite really sure what that mechanism was of that. Could just be a correlation versus causation kind of thing. I really have a hard time thinking that if I get 8.5 hours sleep, I'm going to increase my risk of heart disease. That doesn't quite make sense to me from a mechanistic standpoint.
No, it doesn't.
But hey, 6 to 8, that makes sense. So if you're getting less than 6, for sure, you got to curtail that. But I do think for me, if I'm not doing a ton of harder exercise, 7 hours is essential. I do notice though, if I'm exercising more and I'm lifting more weights, 8 to 9 becomes like important. So if I'm like more busy, I actually cut down a little bit on the more intense exercise because it just requires me to get more sleep to recover.
Yep. Yep. Well said. So the exercise piece, I think exercise is a great sleep inducer as long as it's not too stimulating and not too close to bed. So, depending on the weather, like 7 p.m., if we can go for a walk, I'll try to take my wife and the baby down the street and back,
Yeah.
15-20 minute walk. I'm much more ready for sleep if I do that.
Oh, totally. I agree. I mean, the big thing with sleep in general and exercise is the fact that it revs up your sympathetic nervous system. So the healthier you are, the more you can kind of go on and off, right? On off. So if you can turn off on and off and you can regulate and get that sympathetic stress response down, that's great. Awesome. So maybe like for me, I do like Tabatas around 7:30, maybe some push-ups. I do like, 10 to 15,000 steps during the day on top of that. So I get my 10,000 to 15,000 steps and I do like a little bit of Tabata action.
And you're
And
saying
that's fine.
7:30 p.m.?
I do it, but I mean, my Tabata is 5 minutes. So it's not
Okay.
like, a long thing, but I'm fine with that. That's not a problem. So that's helpful. But if you have some neurological adrenal stuff, you may want to be careful of the timing of when you do your exercise. Maybe do it in the morning, or you may be fine with a Tabata or an interval thing that's shorter, right? We just want to make sure, number one, we feel good after the exercise. Two, we can emotionally repeat it. If the workout's shorter, most people can wrap their head around it emotionally. It's not draining them out. And then three, how do you feel that next day or that next night if it was a morning workout? And that way you can kind of gauge in the intensity, the frequency, and the duration of how long your workout is. And you can adjust those variables accordingly to get you in that place where you can check all three of those boxes. Do you feel better? How do you feel emotionally a few minutes after? Can you repeat the movements? And then how do you feel later that day or that next morning?
Yep, well said. The next thing we have to mention is the timing or the schedule of sleep. If you're working swing shift or night shift, that is bad news. We know if you just type in night shift nurses sleep study, it's something crazy like a 50% increase risk of breast cancer if you're working night shift. I mean, think about it. We didn't evolve to be up at night. And if we were up at night, we were hanging out by a fire, which is going to be a pretty orange or red colored light. And maybe we were chasing away a hyena or something, or a bear that was going to come eat our children when we were hunter gatherers. But we weren't up at night under fluorescent lighting, working in a hospital, looking at a computer screen. So if you're a night shift nurse or night shift anything, like I was when I was in college, I mean, it destroyed me. And I think one of my biggest one of my biggest downfalls, or the thing that destroyed my health, was working at midnight. And I would work all the way through the night, and I would get off at 5 a.m. and I would go to sleep at 6 a.m. And I would try to sleep from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I survived, but I did not thrive at all. So people may yell at us, "Oh, Justin, Evan, I have to work this shift." Okay, if you absolutely can't change it, you can't get another job, you can't work with the sun, I hear you. But I hope that there's an alternative to where people can get off of that.
I 100% agree. If you have the ability, great, awesome, make it a priority. Or if you get paid a lot more and that's what you need to do, fine, is what it is. You just kind of have to know that you're going up to the plate with two strikes against you. So you're really going to have to make sure that your nutrition is borderline perfect. You're going to have to make sure you have some good adaptogens going and some good adrenal support going. And then ideally, make sure it's tough, because then what do you do on the weekend? Do you keep that same cycle going? Do you go back to a normal rhythm? That's where it becomes dicey. I mean, I would probably say keep the rhythm going to keep it consistent, so you at least have a good rhythm. But you got two strikes against you, and you really have to make sure everything else is dialed in regarding hydration, regarding adrenals, regarding adaptogens, and regarding nutrients. And I'd even say gut function, because we got to make sure there's not a lot of gut stress and we're absorbing and assimilating and utilizing our nutrients efficiently.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I worked that shift, my lunch hour was like 3 or 4 a.m. Your body's not wanting to digest food. I don't care how long you work night shift. You never feel like you're fully satiated after a meal at 3 or 4 a.m. I mean, there's a lot of hormonal stuff going on in the middle of the night that your body's not really wired to be eating a grass-fed steak and veggies. So I never felt good, no matter how quality the meal was. So I think in that aspect, you can hack it. Maybe you can hang in there, but eventually you got to get off the night shift. I mean, it is a killer.
I agree. Now, regarding sleep, what are some of the benefits of sleep? Now, not getting enough sleep can cause blood sugar issues, because part of the sleep is it's restoration of your hormones, repairing your organs, repairing all the physical and the biochemical structures of the body so you can function optimally. So 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is that growth hormone window. So we have a lot of physical repair happen in that time. And then 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., we have more of the biochemical kind of repair happening. And ideally getting closer, going to bed on the other side of midnight's ideal. I mean, for me, I'll be straight up. I'm not perfect. I typically get to bed around 11:30. I try to do like 11:30 to 7:30. That's kind of my gig. And then I'm up ready to go at 8. But you got to figure out what works best for you. I mean, if I had more health concerns or more issues, I would be more on top of that. But I feel relatively good, and I manage my stress and I wind down at night. So I feel pretty good with that. But in general, if you have any health issues, you'd want to be more on the other side of midnight. So getting to bed closer to even 10 o'clock would be ideal, just so you maximize that growth hormone output surge that happens around 10 p.m.
Yep. Well said. And bright light in the morning, that's really important. People don't talk about what you do during the day to influence your sleep. People think, okay, what's the magic supplement I need to take before bed to help me sleep? Well, the magic supplement may be getting outside first thing in the morning and getting bright light exposure. So right before we jumped on this call together, I was on my bike. I rode my bike without my shirt, getting as much sun as I can, just down the street and back, 5-10 times. I felt good. I felt amazing. I still feel good from it. I know I'm going to sleep better just because of the exercise piece, plus the sunlight telling me that it's morning, it's daytime, it's time to get going, it's time to peak the cortisol.
Yes.
And you and I test cortisol on every client, and we see a lot of times that people in the morning or in the afternoon, they have a lowered or a flatline cortisol rhythm. And we have to improve upon that, because if you don't have a peak, then you can't have a drop. So if you're just flatlined all day, I mean, you're not going to feel very good. And then sometimes what you and I see on the testing is we see that they have an inverse cortisol pattern, where maybe it's too low in the noon and afternoon, and then it kind of spikes at night. And then those people are the ones who they lay down, but they're too wired and tired. So we really have to focus. We have to test, first of all. You got to get the data. We have to test the adrenal function. And then we have to help modulate that cortisol rhythm if it's off. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if you take melatonin or some other magic sleep supplement, it might not work.
100%. So again, that reverse cortisol rhythm is a hallmark of a sympathetic kind of overload or a sympathetic dominant person. Their fight or flight nervous system response is more activated, and it's starting to go up at night. And the Whitehall-Hurst 2 study show the greatest correlation of cancer was a decreased cortisol gap between their cortisol in the morning and their cortisol at night. So the lower their cortisol got in the morning, which should be higher, and the higher their cortisol got at night, this gap, the spread between morning and night, the smaller that spread got, showed a greater increased correlation risk of cancer than even smoking.
Whoa.
So it's really important that we keep the sympathetic nervous system, we keep it so it can oscillate and adapt between parasympathetic and sympathetic. So a couple of things we do is adaptogenic herbs can be really helpful.
What are you taking there?
That's just some ashwagandha and some extra
okay.
vitamins. On top of that would be, of course, a really good anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense diet, along with blood sugar stability, because sometimes low blood sugar going into bed can create cortisol surges in the middle of the night.
I remember when my nervous system was screwed up. This was like 2015. This is like 3.5 years ago. I was about to move back to Kentucky, and I called Justin, and I was like, Justin, I'm freaking out, man. I was like, my heart is beating 1,000 beats a minute. I can't get it to slow down. And that was when I was about to move. So the house was in boxes. Do you remember this?
Yep. I remember this.
The house was in boxes. We were getting ready to pack up and move the next day. And you said, hey, just try like a gram of magnesium. So that's what I did. And then I ended up doing like an Epsom salt bath too with some essential oils, and I calmed it down. But I'll tell you from firsthand experience, if your nervous system is screwed up, if you have more stress, people say the term work hard, play hard. If you don't work hard and then rest hard, you're going to be messed up. And for me, I had all of this impending transition of moving and such, and I was not mitigating my stress properly. I was doing my adaptogenic herbs, which is great, but I was probably not getting enough exercise, sunlight, etc. So I've been there, done that, and it's not fun. So you have to make sure, I'll just kind of say it in a different way, however much stress you have in your bucket, you've got to have an equally large bucket of de-stressing activities: meditation, massage, float tanks, herbs, going to bed on time, blocking blue light at night, etc.
100%. Like in my line, I have a product called Magnesium Supreme, which is a magnesium dimalate, which is great. There's other magnesium powders that are great. And I'll do a little bit of magnesium with some collagen, which has glycine in it. And the glycine can be really calming and relaxing too at nighttime. So I'll do that before bed as well. People can also do some of the decaf Tulsi teas are excellent because that kind of has an adaptogenic effect. Some people would do even the ashwagandha, which is great. Ashwagandha Supreme's awesome, and do that 1 to 2 caps before bed. Just I recommend testing it out during the day just to see how you do. Some people, they get really energized with it. So you'd want to just make sure you're not one of those people that really get overly stimulated with the ashwagandha. You can always do some other teas like the chamomile tea, the Tulsi decaffeinated teas are excellent because that's holy basil, which is kind of a similar adaptogen as ashwagandha, where it really helps calm and relax. We can always do some sublingual or liposomal GABA. We can even add some L-theanine to it, which is an amino acid that's really calming and relaxing as well. Anything else you wanted to add, Evan? Oh, also, phosphorylated serine is a nice adaptogen that helps calm the hypothalamus's response to cortisol. So it can help really relax that cortisol response at night in case you got this reverse cortisol rhythm pattern that's happening.
Yeah. And
want to add, Evan?
Yeah, I do. Yes. And I'll first comment on the phosphorylated serine. People may think you're just pronouncing it different or wrong. You're not. No, this is different than phosphatal serine. This is phosphorylated. So there is a difference that he's talking about. I'm a huge fan of lemon balm. I have lemon balm tinctures.
Yeah,
I'm growing it in my garden, but it's a lot easier to just buy an organic lemon balm tincture. So I do that. And then motherwort, another favorite. There's a couple different herbalists that I look to for education about herbs. And one herbalist said that taking motherwort is like getting a hug from planet Earth. And I would agree with that statement completely. It's a weird thing to describe. How are you getting a hug from planet Earth? But when you take motherwort, you just feel like you're cuddled. You feel like you're getting swaddled like a little baby. And so I take motherwort and I just go lay down. And it's basically, it just takes all of your worries away. It's a very, very calming thing to do. And it's really great for people with heart issues, atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation, any other type of like a sympathetic overdrive heart issue. Obviously, if you're taking pharmaceuticals, you got to see if that stuff matches up. But if you're not on pharmaceuticals, motherwort is a really good go-to.
Excellent. We can also do things like melatonin. I always recommend, if you're using melatonin, if you have good benefits with melatonin, try to use more of the 5-HTP with B6 first, because that provides more of the building block amino acids to make the melatonin hormone. I always like providing more of the building blocks and precursors. Some people, they just have burnt out their serotonin from stress or from too much sugar or inflammation. So those building block kind of pools to make their melatonin can be lower. So I always recommend utilizing some of the 5-HTP with B6 first. I think that's great. And if you need melatonin kind of in a punctuated fashion, I always have some sublingual version by my bed. So if I'm just coming off a weekend where I was up a little bit later, or if I have a night where I'm more stimulated, I can just get it in my system in 5 or 10 minutes and have it be done, because it's going to my sublingual tissue. So it's there right away.
And dosing on that is how much typically?
I tend to always start super low. So anywhere between 200 to 300 micrograms and up to 1 milligram. Most people, they'll start even at 3 milligrams, right? So I try to start super low because I just need the kind of the sedation, relaxation, kind of going to sleep effect. I don't need it to kind of nurse me throughout the night.
Yeah, most people overdose on melatonin. And what we see when we test people is that people that are doing like 5-10 milligrams melatonin will look at their cortisol pattern, and they don't have that morning spike with their cortisol like they should, because the melatonin opposes cortisol and vice versa.
Yeah. So I always say, we'll give them like a 1 milligram like sublingual lozenge, and we'll have them nibble off a third and just see how they do. And then they can gradually increase it if they need it. So I'm fine with that. And also, just there's sometimes people wake up in the middle of the night, if they have a pattern or a rhythm of having a hard time going back to sleep. There can be stress that happens just sitting there wondering if they can go back to sleep. So sometimes if you're that person, it's better to almost just nibble on a little bit of melatonin, because then at least you've done what you need to get back to sleep. And that helps negate that cortisol response from you wondering if you'll get back to sleep.
Yeah, I would also like to bring up emotional stress too. If that's unaddressed, that's going to keep you up at night. So if it's a financial worry or relationship problem, or you hate your job and you don't want to go to work the next day, something like that, you've got to address it. So I would try to write down a big list of all of the stressors. What are the things you can control? What are the things that you can do? What are the action steps to resolve those stressors? And then for some of the stuff you can't control, like maybe you're stuck in this job, you don't like this boss right now, maybe you can do some EFT. And you tap about it, even though I don't like this boss, I deeply love and accept myself. And you just do your tapping and affirmations. That could help too. And then I know you may have a couple other things to go into, but we should definitely just really hit on the fact about testing, because you brought up the serotonin and how people burn that out due to stress. We don't just guess with that. We always test people and we can measure it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, on the stress thing, I mean, what I'll do is I'll just use my to-do list either on Google Task or just on my iPhone, and I'll just punch in what are the top 3 things that are keeping me up. Because the big thing is, as long as I'm taking action on those things, it's usually the uncertainty and the lack of action taking on a stressful task that creates the uncertainty. So, hey, what are those top 3 things? And then just make sure we're doing something to close the loop. So we're always doing something. So we're not sitting back and kind of being a spectator, so to speak.
Yeah, being paralyzed from it.
Yeah, always make sure you're doing at least something to get the monkey off your back.
And then did you have other categories or body systems you wanted to hit on? I think we hit the gut briefly. I will say that gut infections can mess up your sleep. When I had parasites, my sleep was terrible.
Yeah, and infections can be a stressor, and these infections are more active at nighttime. So the inflammation they create at night, the body may respond by producing more anti-inflammatory hormone, i.e. cortisol. Cortisol is also stimulatory as well. So that could wake you up. So we do our best to clear out the gut infections. That can be more of a long-term strategy. We may use palliative things first, like I mentioned, the magnesium, the calm, the motherwort, the 5-HTP with B6, the melatonin, all of the healing and soothing and calming herbs and adaptogens first. And then, of course, we get the patient ready so they can get to that next step and do the killing efficiently. We may work on the blood sugar stability before bed and have something by their nightstand in case they are waking up with low blood sugar. They have an easy smoothie or an easy bar right there at their nightstand that they can access if needed.
Yeah, good. Like a little fat bomb, like a little big chunk of coconut or something like that that's going to give you some fats.
Epic bar or one of these collagen bars or a little smoothie that's already made in a shaker cup that's already ready to go. We just don't want you having to get up, go to the fridge, the bright light pops on, or you're having to use your head to mix whatever you're doing. I just kind of want it on autopilot. So if you need something, it's just there and ready to go.
Yep. Yeah. So parasites for me, I mean, that was the biggest one. I had an H. pylori infection too. That screwed up my sleep. My sleep is much, much better now. Of course, with a baby, we're getting there. We're almost out of the woods with her sleep. So I'm going to be sleeping much better. I already am sleeping better than previous, but let's talk about the testing too, because I think it's important. People can go and buy all these supplements. You could buy melatonin, ashwagandha, et cetera, et cetera. And as you mentioned, it's more palliative. It's not really root cause. So you hit on the adrenals. We talked about testing for that. We do that with a saliva panel. You can measure the 24-hour rhythm, or you could do urine. But either way, you want to look at the morning, how the day progresses, and then evening, take a snapshot there. If there's cortisol issues, you have to fix it, because that could be messing up your gut. Because if cortisol is too high, that's catabolic. So then it's eating your tight junctions away in your gut. Then you have leaky gut. Then you get autoimmune condition. Then you're really screwed. So you got to test adrenals. And then step 2, you mentioned the brain chemistry, the serotonin. So we run organic acids testing on everyone through urine. It's a great test. And it looks at also bacterial infections and yeast, dopamine levels. It looks at your endorphins, amino acids, et cetera. And then step 3, we talked about the gut, getting the gut tested. Running a stool test. We do this at home. So if you work with Justin or I, we send a test kit to your house, you collect stool, you look for all the infections, and then we come in and we address those. And then maybe we're doing some of this stuff behind the scenes along the way, but you have to fix those big body systems if you really want to sleep good and have long-term health.
Absolutely. So we have kind of the anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, low-toxin diet going. We're working on the gut. We're working on the hormones. Oh, also low progesterone and some hormonal imbalances. I see it with a lot of my women that have severe PMS, or they're perimenopausal or menopausal, postmenopausal. The hormonal imbalances from progesterone and estrogen either going low or being out of balance at certain times of the month can easily throw off the cycle, or sleep. Easily throw off your sleep.
Now, would you say like estrogen dominance is what's happening?
Well, it can, because estrogen dominance tends to imply lower progesterone, and progesterone kind of opens those GABA chloride channels, and GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, which means it helps you relax and turn off. So GABA is kind of the switch that allows the sympathetic nervous system to go off and the parasympathetic to go on, which is important so you can wind down and chill out. So that can be helpful. So some of our cycling patients, or even our menopausal patients, we'll give some progesterone at or around bedtime, or we'll have them dose their progesterone at or around that time of the day anyway, to really help with relaxation.
And you're talking like how much?
It depends, but typically with patients, we'll do anywhere between 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams.
And that's like a typical dose. Like you'll see like a teaspoon of like a micronized progesterone. It's like a pretty standard dose.
Yeah, 25 to 50 milligrams is pretty good. It just depends on how low the person is. We may go up more above that, go up to 200. And just if we continue to see benefit or improvement, that's good. And if we see lower levels, that will give us more motivation that we should go higher. But I always like to start lower with hormones because progesterone can sensitize estrogen receptor sites. So people can get symptoms of estrogen dominance as they increase their progesterone because of that receptor site sensitivity. So starting lower tends to help the body adapt to those type of responses, kind of like it's easier to get into cold water if you can kind of start with warm water and gently nudge the temperature downward, kind of like that.
Yep, well said. Were there any other body systems or things we didn't hit on yet?
Well, we talked about the amino acids and the neurotransmitters. We talked about B6. We always like to combine there because B6 is really important to these neurotransmitters converting and synthesizing. So if we have mitochondrial stress, if we have dysbiosis, B vitamins are made in the gut a significant amount. Obviously, a lot will come with food and healthy meats and good animal proteins and good plant material. And then after that, minerals are important. People that tend to eat lots of sugar and excess carbohydrate and refined sugar, they'll be depleting their magnesium because magnesium is one of those nutrients that gets burnt up with excess carbohydrate metabolism. So magnesium is really important. And that will help have a really good relaxation kind of effect. So that's important as well. And then just some of the diet, some of the lifestyle strategies, keeping the lights down at night, blue blocking glasses can be great. I use them sometime. For me, I can go from sympathetic to parasympathetic like that. So it's not like this huge thing. But I think if you have a hard time coming off of a TV or a movie or just in general, that can be a good thing to kind of help the parasympathetics turn on faster and better. So you can keep that in mind. I will find that if I'm watching TV like at 9 o'clock, 8:30, and I have those glasses on, I'll want to go to sleep so much faster.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
really just like, whoa. I'm just like, so I mean, for me, it's like it makes me go to bed a little too early. So I like a little bit of stimulation until I know I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a pair that I give my wife to wear, and we both wear them. We get super sleepy quick, and we basically
Yes.
we have salt lamps on at night, and that's pretty much it. We don't really have any overhead lights on at night, so we try to live like we're hanging out at a campfire in the evenings,
Yeah.
and it works great.
And for me, we have blue blocking night lights. So in my son's room, if we need to, or if in our room, if we need to, we have the night light. So if we need a little bit of light, which sometimes we do, it's at least not emitting any blue light. So that's not going to stimulate the melatonin, right? It's the blue light that gets the melatonin going. So more of the infrared, red frequencies tend to be less melatonin inhibiting.
Yep. Well said. So the light piece you cannot ignore. Like you take all the perfect supplements, you've got a big bright light, or you're checking your phone right before you go to bed and you're not using blue blocking technologies, then you're screwing yourself up for sure. I saw a question. If you're ready to hit questions, it was a question about PQQ and whether it improves sleep or not. I did find a study on that, and it was just titled exactly that: oral supplementation, PQQ on stress, fatigue, and sleep. And turns out that yes, it definitely does help in terms of sleep onset, sleep duration, and it does help to reduce fatigue, tension, anxiety, depression, anger, hostility, and confusion. So PQQ is great. I mean, we do use some of PQQ in some of our protocols. It's a
Could
great
be great for
mitochondrial.
mitochondria function. There's research showing that actually can help regenerate mitochondria.
That's so cool because when you hear about mitochondria, it's kind of like brain cells. People used to think that once your mitochondria get damaged, you're toast, but you're not. You can actually regenerate mitochondria, which is cool.
100%. Any other questions you want to highlight here, Evan?
Yeah, let's see here. There was one that said, if I'm in a toxic environment, is it smart to do fasting if I wake up at night hungry? That's kind of a confusing question. Do you understand that one?
Well, I mean, I would say, so like, do you mean, I'm going to make some assumptions, meaning toxic, like poor air quality or mold in the environment? I mean, I would say number one, you're going to, as long as you have access to good quality food, I would say eating is going to provide the nutrition to run those detoxification pathways. I mean, part of the benefit of fasting is you're not putting any food in your body, so you give your gut a chance to rest. So if your gut's inflamed or stressed, that makes sense. But if your gut's already healthy and you're putting really good food in your body, well, that nutrition is important to run your metabolic pathways. Your metabolic pathways either go in debt to run, meaning they burn up other tissues, which may be good if it's fat, but they need nutrition to run. And as far as I'm concerned, your fat does not store a whole bunch of vitamins and minerals. It has a lot of caloric reserve, but it doesn't have any mineral or fat reserve. I mean, you may have some fat soluble vitamins stored in your liver, A, B12. B12 tend to be a little bit, even though it's a water soluble vitamin, it tends to be stored in higher amounts in the liver, from what I understand. But in general, I would say you want to make sure you have good nutrition to run those pathways optimally.
Another question here. It was about Samuel. He said, seems like the blue light blocker fad is winding down. Is it still effective for proper sleep? Of course it is. It's not a fad. It should stay here forever. Blue light is never going to not affect melatonin, period. Once we figured that out, I think that's a lifetime strategy.
I still don't understand why a lot of people just have them on during the day. Because I just like, well, what's the point? Because don't you want that stimulation during the day? You want that cortisol.
You do.
So I don't understand. I see people like Dave Asprey and Dr. Jack Cruz, they have them on during the day. And I'm just like, I mean, maybe if you have some kind of time zone switch and you're trying to adapt to a time zone, maybe, and you're overly stressed and you're trying to decrease that stress response, fine. But during the day, I would think you'd want to have that light exposure, especially in the first half of the day. And then the last half of the day, maybe after 5 p.m., if you're trying to get that nervous system to quiet down, maybe you throw in the blue blockers to help accentuate that parasympathetic shift.
Yeah, I chatted with Dr. Mercola about it. He says the only time and reason that he wears the blue blockers during the day is if he's in like a conference hall or something where it's all artificial lighting.
Artificial light.
And he has no sunlight. So if you're getting exposed to fake blue light during the day and you still have sunlight opposing it with windows or you're outside, you're in good shape. But when you have nothing and you're in like a dark hall and all you have are these fake lights, that's when I know Mercola said he will use the glasses. And so that's kind of the 2 cents there. Charlie asked, should you eat carbs like a sweet potato or honey before bed? How long before bed for optimal sleep? I don't worry about the timing, but I do feel like I sleep a little bit better with some starch at dinner.
Yeah, I think people that have lower cortisol at night, that tend to go lower at night, do a little bit better with some carbs. So I think number one, if you know your adrenals tend to be a little bit lower on the cortisol side, try it. Just try doing a little bit of carbs before bed. If you have a device like a Fitbit or an Oura Ring that has an HRV attached to it, try it and then see how your HRV, which is kind of a window into your nervous system, see how that looks at nighttime. But I mean, if you're having times where you're waking up at night, definitely throw a little bit of carbohydrate in there with some protein and fat and see if that makes the difference.
Yep. Elizabeth said she used to have trouble sleeping and she was told she had parasites. So she got rid of the parasites and she slept. So yes, that's awesome.
Yep, we see that a lot. That's great. Awesome. Any other major questions here you want to run down that are pertinent to the podcast here, guys? If you have any questions, try to keep it to the sleep podcast. I'm going to try to, in the notes, always put like in the beginning, like, hey, this podcast is on whatever topic, and that way you guys can chime in accordingly.
Yeah, Mike asked, blue light is for the light of the morning. Why would you want that all day? So, I mean, the sun emits blue light all day until the spectrum starts changing, and then you start to remove blue light naturally as the sun sets. So that's how it's supposed to happen. The atmosphere starts to filter out the blue and greens, and then you transition into darkness. So that's how it's supposed to work, which is why being on the computer at night with no blue blocking software or the glasses is not good. So I don't do pretty much any screen too late. And if I do, it's always with the blue blocking glasses or software on. I think that's all the pertinent ones. Yeah.
On my iPhone, I have the night shift on, and I went in and I like turned off all the blue. So it's only red at night. And that does, I mean, I can be on my phone right before bed. Like if I'm like, I don't know, like getting my alarm set or making a couple of notes on my to-do list for tomorrow, doesn't affect me at all. But I also have all of the blue off 100%. And I have the light on the lowest possible setting as well.
Yeah. Like the brightness itself turned down.
The brightness all the way down, all of the blue totally off. So it's just red that's showing, and it's just the tiniest bit. But then if I have to, like, let's say I have to go on the computer like late to do some work, something got missed, then I will use my blue blocking glasses just because I got all these monitors on. So that's when it's really nice. If you have to do work a little bit later, use your glasses for that.
Yep. Excellent. Cruz said something interesting last time I spoke with him, which is he thinks people should be wearing scarves around their neck because the blue light penetrates through the skin and it can affect the thyroid and cause Hashimoto's. I think it's an interesting thought.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I mean, here's the deal. I'm always open to trying it. So like if you feel less stimulated, great. Awesome. Give it a try. Will that cause Hashimoto's? I'm not really worried about it. there's way more triggers that people are already activating with gluten and with infections and blood sugar. I'm not worried about that. Now, if and also vitamin D is really important, right? Vitamin D has a major effect on the immune system and can help modulate the immune response. But I wouldn't jump to that conclusion on the hashis first, but I think it's worth trying if it helps you feel less stimulated, for sure.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're desperate, that's something you should definitely look at. If it reduced your antibodies, like I think the only way to track it would be if you had all other variables dialed in and then you put on the scarf at night. So therefore the blue light didn't penetrate to the thyroid and then all of a sudden antibodies went down, but you did nothing else. I mean, that may be a way to quantify it, but that's hard. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah, for me, like blue light, I think is optimal because there is some data. I think in T.S. Wiley's book, Lights Out, she talked about, I think, a study at the University of Chicago where they had people like sleeping, and then they would like shine a light. They would like put a light right on the back of someone's knee.
Yes, that's right.
And it would like wake them up or pull them out of sleep. I'm not sure if it woke them up or it just made their sleep study look, more unfavorable, so to speak.
I think it downregulated melatonin too. And
Yes.
it was literally a light the size of like a nickel behind the kneecap. And that was enough to affect melatonin.
Right. So I look at like blue blocking glasses at nighttime is like the lights are down to a dimmable level. And maybe you want to watch TV or some Netflix or check out your iPad or whatever. Like that's where I find it's really good. Ideally, you want everything kind of dimmed out. So you don't want all the lights on, and then the blue blockers on. You'd want everything down, and then you're using it just so you can engage with your technology or watch a show and not be, overly sympathetically stimulated.
Yeah, that's an important note is environmental light needs to be reduced as well. You can't just blast yourself. Oh, I have blue blockers. I'm fine. I agree. It's got to be both, which is why I do nothing but salt lamps at night.
Yeah, and best investment everyone can get is number one, like for your bedrooms, get blue blocking night lights and or like a bulb that's like a blue blocking bulb. And or number two, in all the major rooms that I'm in, like around nighttime, they all have dimmer switches. So if I have to use the lights in my bedroom, I put on the absolute lowest setting, or for my TV room, the lowest setting, or for like, around my TV or bathroom, absolute lowest setting. That way I can at least, decrease the intensity if the light has to go on.
Yep. I think that was all the questions. So if people want to reach out, I mean, we always test people. Could you take some of these supplement recommendations and benefit? Probably so, but we do like to test people and figure out what's really going on. So if you want to reach out, you can do so to Justin at his site, justinhealth.com, justinhealth.com. And then if you want to reach out to me, it's evanbrand.com. We love helping you all. We love getting the data. We love seeing the difference too. Like after we implement something and then the cortisol rhythm's fixed and then the sleep is fixed, it's like, oh, that's why you're sleeping better. Look at your cortisol. It went from 12 units at night to now it's 1 unit at night. It's really satisfying to see the results on paper.
100%. And we appreciate the awesome questions from everyone kind of chiming in. I think we're one of the only people that does a live podcast like this and answers questions just live, right? We're a functional medicine health improv here. So we appreciate the great questions. Give us a share, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit the notification bell. And anyone that your friends or family with that needs more help or wants to chime in and be part of this great conversation, we appreciate you sharing the word. So thank you so much, everyone. And Evan, today was a great podcast as always. And let's talk real soon.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.